Well, Merry Christmas to everybody. I hope your day has been incredible in as much as so much has been different. Welcome on board. My name is Linda Alela and this is TV47 Weekend. We come to you with so much in the world of news as we update you on how many of you have celebrated Christmas across the country. But first, let's take a look at the headlines. Kenyans in their thousands flock leisure joints to celebrate Christmas as hoteliers at the coast breathe a sigh of relief as one of the toughest years comes to a close. Also tonight, a man killed by a food kiosk owner in Kabartonjo for failing to pay 30 shillings for a meal of boiled cow's head. And tonight we flash back to the last 9 months of 2020 and tell of the shadow pandemics that were birthed by the COVID-19 pandemic. The hashtag is TV47 Weekend, the Twitter handle at TV47KE, at Linda_Alela. Interact with us. Let's get to hear what you have to say about today's events and the news of the day. Welcome on board once again. Our sign language interpreter is Ann Waithira. Let's get started as hundreds of Christian faithfuls today came out in large numbers across the country to join the rest of the world in marking Christmas celebrations. But as our reporter Zainab Mohammed now reports, this year's Birth of Christ celebrations was uniquely marked in adherence to COVID-19 rules and regulations. Well, not 100% adherence though.
This year's Christmas celebrations were marked uniquely due to the effects of the COVID-19 pandemic in the country.
Kasi yangu haijakuwa mzuri kama hizo siku zingine. Kwa sababu kama sasa hii mimi ningekuwa Western, singekuwa Nairobi hapo Uhuru Park. In fact hata ni mara yangu ya kwanza kuja Uhuru Park sababu pesa imereduce.
At Uhuru Park in Nairobi, security officers manned every corner of the park, ensuring strict adherence to COVID-19 rules and regulations among those who were present.
Naona watu wengi wamevaa barakoa. Na pia hata upande ya usalama tunaona pia askari wanapita. Wenye wajafaa wanaambiwa wafae barakoa.
Business persons equally had to follow the guidelines in their transactions. The business owners lamenting of poor business due to the low turnout of people as a result of the pandemic.
Hajakuwa mzuri sana like the other Christmas. Hizo Christmas zingine tulikuwa tunapata pesa sana. Of which leo watu hata si wengi. Wengine wako broke.
Many Kenyans present here blaming the poor economic times as one of the main reasons for not being able to travel up country for the celebrations.
Sasa hii fare imekuwa juu sana. For now like kusafiri kama saa hii mtu mmoja ni 2500. Ukiwa na familia ya watu watatu that's 7500. Hapo ukipiga budget hiyo ya kwenda na kurudi hakika inataka minimum of 30,000.
Zimekuwa mbaya. Pesa haijakuwa. Mahali nilikuwa nafanya kazi sijakuwa kazi kwa miezi 7. So 7 months ukikaa nyumbani bila kazi definitely hauna pesa.
In the coastal region, the tourism sector is slowly picking up after a steep decrease due to the pandemic and the containment measures that followed afterwards. Many hotels reporting an overbooking as most Kenyans visit the area for Christmas and New Year celebrations.
The president's speech on lockdown, our focus was very low. But after the president gave a leeway for families to travel, but again observe COVID protocols, then our bookings started triggering in. And we can say, comparing the other months of the year, this is the busiest month.
And in Baringo County, hundreds flocked to tourist attraction sites in the region in order to mark the festive season.
See, today is a very deserted place and it's a resort. And I can tell the hospitality industry is really affected. And I think COVID-19 has become a problem to our people. Many people normally plan for Christmas, but nowadays, today, not even nowadays, you can tell the place is very deserted.
Despite the COVID-19 scare in the country, Kenyans here have turned up in large numbers to mark the Christmas celebrations as they do every year. Zainab Mohammed, TV47 at Uhuru Park in Nairobi.
But as usual, many Kenyans are termed to be African timers, and during such festive season, Kenyans rush to travel up country to celebrate Christmas with their loved ones. The last-minute public service vehicles have taken advantage of COVID-19 and its indispensable protocols to hike bus fares double and thrice the normal rates. Spot checks at different bus stations in Nairobi show the frustrations of Kenyans stranded with limited vehicles and hiked fares. Joan Maina with a story.
Mimi nataka kwenda Kalatina. Mbei ni kali kabisa.
Mimi nilikuja hapa asubuhi nikitaka kwenda kwetu Nyeri Othaya. Lakini magari yote yako na shida, wameongeza pesa thrice.
The effects of COVID-19 are visibly evident. For the better part of Christmas Day, public service vehicles traveling up country were few, and those available hiked fares double the normal rates.
Unalipia gari, inabidi usubiri kwa wakati mrefu ndipo gari liweze kufikia kwa wakati unapofaa.
SACCO's officials from the Machakos Country Bus and T-Room PSV termini said that the COVID-19 protocols, with one of them dictating that PSVs only carries 60% of their full capacity, have forced them to double their prices to avoid incurring losses.
Na abiria wenyewe wanashindwa kusafiri kwa maana bei iko maradufu. Sio mapenzi yetu, itabidi tuongeze bei.
Nimetolewa watu 5 na gari nabeba watu 9 na ilikuwa inabeba watu 14.
Travelers arrived in the CBD early in the morning, hoping to travel and to get to their destinations in good time, but the situation left them stranded, with others thinking of cancelling their journey.
Nilifika hapa saa 12 tangu asubuhi. Nimekaa hapa na saa hii ni lunch.
Bus stations full of people, others scrambling to get on board. The few PSVs forced the travelers to dig deeper into their pockets just to celebrate Christmas Day out of the city.
Tunalipaga 500 lakini wamefikisha 1,200.
Leaders have been calling on Kenyans not to travel up country in order to minimize the risk of taking COVID-19 to their elderly parents who are more vulnerable, but the urge to travel home for Christmas seems unsurmountable.
As is the norm during the festive season, public service vehicles have hiked fares, leaving the travelers stranded, a challenge compounded by the COVID-19 protocols. Joan Maina reporting for TV47, T-Room, Nairobi.
Thanks, Joan. Kenyans have been urged to be vigilant even as they celebrate the Christmas and New Year festivities and report any suspicious activities to the nearest police station. This is according to Interior Cabinet Secretary Fred Matiang'i, who celebrated Christmas Day with police officers at the Karen police station.
Last night, up to this morning, we haven't received any security incident report from across the country, because we are in touch with everyone everywhere in the country, and the country is quiet. The multi-agency team that the president demanded be put in place, because we are now working within a multi-agency framework. All the security sector agencies have come together and we are being coordinated seamlessly across the agencies. It's working. We receive intelligence in real time. We're able to deploy teams in real time, and we're able to work effectively across the country.
We are properly deployed on the ground. We have colored this country in uniform, both in police, Kenya Police, National Police Service uniform and Kenya Prison uniform, to ensure that Kenyans enjoy their Christmas without any fear, intimidations, and enjoy full security.
As Christians across the world ushered in Christmas, attending Christmas Eve, midnight masses and services, the situation was different in Kenya as worshippers could not gather at night due to curfew regulations.
Churches shifted from the traditional midnight celebrations for Christmas to earlier 90-minute services. In Gatundu, Africa Independent Pentecostal Church of Africa Kiamwangi conducted the long-serving tradition hours before the dark, with few congregants allowed in for the culturally significant celebrations widely observed in anticipation of Christmas Day. AIPCA clergy from Gatundu were during the special event consecrated so as to carry out Christ's work diligently in the coming year. During the service, Jomo Mwita, the Bishop AIPCA Diocese of Gatundu, took issue with the clergy and politicians for using pulpits as political platforms.
That recently there are some of us, clergy, who have used the altar in a very abusive manner. Rather than preaching the gospel of Jesus Christ, they have used it as a political platform, and we want to condemn that.
His sentiments were echoed by Robert Githongo, an MCA in Kiambu County.
Hawakunipatia kula kama maua ya gavana, kila mahali amesimama ako, ninaweka maneno ingine ile haieleweki. Mimi niachiliwe mikono, nisikamatwe, niwachwe nifanye kazi yangu ile nilipewa na watu ya Kiamwangi.
Recently, the MCA blasted the county boss over poor services at Kiambu County public health facilities after a pastor died at one of the county facilities after medics failed to attend to him.
As Kenyans from all walks of life celebrate Christmas, a family in Kabartonjo, Baringo North County is mourning the death of their son, Jimmy Kagisha. Kagisha was beaten to death by a hotel owner after he failed to pay 30 shillings for a boiled cow's head he had consumed last night. Elsewhere, police in Malindi have been accused of using excessive force on Kenyans while implementing the dusk to dawn curfew. This comes as police officers allegedly assaulted and broke the arm of a Malindi businessman they arrested past the curfew hours.
Sami Kagicha's mother is in pain and agony. Her son was attacked and killed by a kiosk owner in Kabartonjo in Baringo South County. It is alleged that Kagicha ate a boiled cow's head at this kiosk, and after the owner realized that he did not have 30 shillings to pay for the food he ate, attacked Kagicha, killing him on the spot.
Yeye alikula chakula na chakula ni ya 30 bob na kuweza kulipa. Kwa hivyo mwenye biashara akaamua kumaliza yeye.
Tungelipia ili aweze kula, na mtu amekuja na njaa anapigwa mpaka anakufa. Na ni msimu wa Christmas.
Angry residents who woke up to the shocking news this morning gathered to destroy the kiosk, leaving nothing but pieces of beef from which Kagicha ate on Christmas Eve. The residents asking the government to investigate the matter and bring the culprit to book.
Waanze sahi uchunguzi kupainisha kwamba ni nini aswa ilisababisha kifo cha huyu kijana.
Elsewhere, police in Malindi have been accused of using excessive force in enforcing the dusk to dawn curfew. Zakayo Kaibunga, a businessman in the area, says he was on his way home at around 10:30 p.m. when he was assaulted by police officers enforcing the executive order, further claiming that the officers forced him into their Land Cruiser, breaking his arm.
Walipokuwa wananiinua hivi, kuna pale mkono wangu iliingia katikati ya chuma na kiti. Nikaanza wakanibana. Nikascream kama mkono unaumia, hawakusikia. Nikascream tena mnanivunja, hawakusikia. Basi ule alikuwa juu akaniinua zaidi, ndio mkono ika twist.
He has further alleged that the officers who arrested him that night took his phone and 105,000 shillings in cash.
Huku nako kwa mfuko kulikuwa na pesa 105. Nikasikia inatolewa kabisa pesa na simu pia inatolewa mfukoni, lakini sasa sina nguvu tena kwa sababu mkono huu ndio nilikuwa nimeshikilia na huu mkono ambao umevunjwa.
Zakayo has urged police officers to treat suspects with dignity. Musa Salah, TV47.
Now to sports. Persons interested in taking part in Nairobi gubernatorial by-election on a Jubilee Party ticket and have not sent a petition to Jubilee Party and filed a notice form by now are time-barred. Jubilee Party is now set to take or to make a decision on whether to hold nominations or subject the aspirants to special interviews. Negotiations are also underway on whether the Jubilee Party and ODM are going to support one candidate in the spirit of the handshake. Further, the Deputy President and his allies are also expected to field their candidate or support an independent candidate, as that is Bishop Margaret Wanjiru.
As the Nairobi gubernatorial race warms up, different parties are on the last-minute rush to choose their best-suited candidates for the dual slated for February 18th, 2021. Jubilee Party Electoral Committee having given an ultimatum of today evening for Jubilee candidates to present their petition. Jubilee Secretary General Raphael Tuju says after receiving the formal notice from interested parties, they will have to decide if they will hold nominations or conduct a special interview on aspirants to get a suitable candidate. However, sources say the Jubilee Party is likely to settle on former Dagoretti South Member of Parliament Dennis Waweru or former Gatanga Member of Parliament Peter Kenneth, whom the party leader President Uhuru Kenyatta has expressed his confidence. Further, President Uhuru Kenyatta is said to be in talks with ODM party leader Raila Odinga to support one candidate as ODM takes the deputy governor's seat. On the other hand, Wiper leader Kalonzo Musyoka, Musalia Mudavadi of ANC and Moses Wetangula of Ford Kenya are likely to have a candidate or throw their weight behind Jubilee Party candidate. This comes as Deputy President William Ruto is alleged to be in talks with Nairobi politicians to decide on whether to field a candidate or support independent candidate Bishop Margaret Wanjiru. IEBC has given political parties until Monday next week to give the names of aspirants contesting in primaries for the Nairobi gubernatorial seat by election. Elizabeth Mutuku, TV47 Nairobi.
That story by Elizabeth Mutuku takes us for a short break. We're coming back with more.
Ebindaya tanu, ebindaya moyo, ebindaya time, ebindaya nguma, kwata kawaya, kwate vyo. Hey, what's up? My name is Movie and thank you. For the last 3 months we've been watching Coffee with Movie. Nasema ni asante, nashukuru. Thank you for the suggestions, for the opinions, for the suggestions of who you want us to have and the better ideas of how we can modify this show to suit you as best as possible. Nataka niwawish Merry Christmas, Happy Brand New Year 2021. Au sio? It will be bigger, greater, fuller, excellenter. Au sio? I wish you a Merry Christmas, I wish you a Merry Christmas, I wish you a Merry Christmas and a Happy New 2021, yo.
We let you take us through your journey.
The report of the scan came out. The doctor told us that the scan is showing my baby had already passed on.
I don't like people standing too close to me. I don't like people standing behind me.
And give hope after beating all odds.
We don't choose how we are born. We don't choose how we are raised. The choices we have in this life are virtually limited.
Only on Confessions with Maria every Saturday at 8 p.m.
Sunday yes, Sunday mwami. Mtumishi hapa papa unichasero baya niweze kumushinda shetani. Sunday yes. Tuko ndani ya TV47, don't move, usisonge, pakia hapo na tuna hang out na Coffee with Mbufi na tunaelekea wakati wa Christmas. Please share. Ukiona kakitu tu, pitia mahali wachia mtu na utachaswa na roho ya TV47. Papa unichase roho, niweze kumushinda shetani. Sunday wacha nimalizie chai.
Ebindaya seo, ebindaya tanu, ebindaya moyo, ebindaya time, ebindaya nguma, kwata kawaya, kwate vyo. Hey, what's up? My name is Movie and thank you. For the last 3 months we've been watching Coffee with Movie. Nasema ni asante, nashukuru. Thank you for the suggestions, for the opinions, for the suggestions of who you want us to have and the better ideas of how we can modify this show to suit you as best as possible. Nataka niwawish Merry Christmas, Happy Brand New Year 2021. Au sio? It will be bigger, greater, fuller, excellenter. Au sio? I wish you a Merry Christmas. I wish you a Merry Christmas. I wish you a Merry Christmas and a Happy New 2021, yo.
We let you take us through your journey.
The report of the scan came out. The doctor told us that the scan is showing my baby had already passed on.
I don't like people standing too close to me. I don't like people standing behind me.
And give hope after beating all odds.
We don't choose how we are born. We don't choose how we are raised. The choices
This is TV47. Happy holidays.
Welcome back to TV47 Weekend. As promised, we have more still lined up for you. And that is in the political world. Still also we have incredible features that speak of what has been right here, right from the time we experienced COVID-19. And yes, we'll be taking a look at all these stories just to update you, even as we still continue to take a look at how you've celebrated your Christmas across different parts as we enlighten you even some more. An incredible also feature that is coming your way in regards to matters COVID-19. We get to remind ourselves of what 2020 has become, or what 2020 has been, as we also cross fingers and look forward for a better year come 2021. Now let's proceed to more news. A family in Kisauni constituency in Mombasa County is crying for justice and medical help for their kin who was hit by a police vehicle while crossing the road at Barsheba in Mombasa on December the 15th. The police driver took the old man to hospital but later took him home without receiving any treatment, telling him that government processes take time and he has to wait. The victim suffered fractures on his right leg.
When we arrive at Mzee Samuel Mashanza's home in Kisauni, we found an old man in pain. Mzee Mashanza was hit by a police car while crossing the road along Barsheba area in Kisauni, Mombasa County.
Tarehe 15 ilikuwa naenda kwa Chuakari. Sehemu za Barsheba. Kifuga parapara hivi ikawa matatu imenipa nafasi ya kufuka njia. Kufuka kidogo hivi, kutaka kumaliza kufuka hivi, na gari ya polisi ikatokezea ikanichukua. Kunichukua, shutuka tu niko chini. Kapoteza fahamu karibu dakika 20. Nikamwambia, mmeniua.
The police car later rushed him to hospital where he received first aid, but his fractures were not treated.
Choja mikawa ataka kunihutumia. Ikawa wafanye nini? Bei ikawa kali. Kile kitu wakasema tuje St. Fatuma. Tukaje St. Fatuma, akaambia nini hii? Pili, ngoje tuweke mpaka deposit shilingi 50,000. Akapikia hata maofisa wenzake. Wakaja. Maofisa wenzake wakaja, wakazungumza, akasema huyu ameumia chini, atakana afanywe matibabu mara moja. Lakini kitu waliondoka wakaenda kuangalia mahali yule jamaa alinikuongea. Lakini kidogo alichelewa kuja. Na St. Fatuma huwa kitanda kulalia kukaa tu disali moja shilingi 400. Msichana wangu Peti aliona hapa ni tutachelewa sana. Akaniambia tutoka hapa, hii mambo tufanye nyumbani.
When we contacted Kisauni Dock Section OCPD Peter Maluki, he said the case is under investigation to determine who is to take blame for the accident and if the police department is required to incur the hospital bill. Remember, poor Mzee Samuel Mashanza was hit by the police car 15 days ago. He cannot afford the 50,000 shillings required to start the treatment.
Na chini usaidizi wajanisaidia. Na wameniambia watanisaidia. Na tachukua process. Mpaka na sasa ni bado mimi naumwa tu.
OCPD Peter Maluki, who declined to speak on camera, told TV47 that Mzee Mashanza will have to wait until investigations are over. Well, his injuries notwithstanding. Mariam Mwacharo, TV47, Mombasa County.
Well, we wish him well. Away from it, in a year that the COVID-19 pandemic has dealt a blow to every sector in the country, shadow pandemics sprouting under the COVID-19 canopy have further seemed to worsen an already dire situation. From a surge in cases of mental illnesses to a spike in cases of unemployment, teen pregnancies, domestic violence and police brutality, the country has been left on its knees. Our reporter David Mudoka walks us through the journey of a year which for Kenyans has been marred by COVID-19 shadow pandemics.
Beneath the COVID-19 veil are many pandemics that have punctured the country to the core. Widely referred to as shadow pandemics, these social vices arising from the ravages of COVID-19 have torn the country apart socially, economically and politically, and they continue to do so.
When on March 13th, Kenya recorded its first coronavirus case, it became apparent that it was only a matter of when, not if, COVID-19 would become a pandemic locally. Just 2 days before March 13th, the World Health Organization had announced that coronavirus had become a global pandemic. March 13th was visibly a signal of a dark 2020 for the country, but you will be forgiven to believe that COVID-19 will be the only dark thing about 2020. In just over 9 months since the country recorded its patient zero, mental health complications in the country have seemed to drastically rise. Recent statistics show that in Kenya, it is estimated that 1 in every 10 people suffer from a common mental disorder. The severity increases to 1 in every 4 patients attending routine outpatient services in government hospitals. Depression and anxiety disorders are the leading mental illnesses diagnosed in Kenya, followed by substance use disorders. Stakeholders have raised an alarm that the situation could worsen owing to a health sector evidently overburdened by the fight against COVID-19, as well as the lack of a structured system, legislation and resources deployed to handle mental health issues. The government has since vowed to make mental health a priority public health and socio-economic agenda in this year's State of the Nation address by President Uhuru Kenyatta.
It is notable too that there has been a phenomenal increase in mental illness across the country and indeed around the world, which has caused serious national distress and anguish in our families.
In his 7th address to the nation as the head of state, Kenyatta announced a raft of measures that will be put in place to counter the mental ill health shadow pandemic covertly ravaging the country, among them the establishment of a mental health office in the Ministry of Health with the full responsibility of spearheading a national response to mental health issues, and the establishment of an ultra-modern national mental health hospital by elevating Mathari National Teaching and Referral Hospital as a semi-autonomous specialized hospital. The East Africa's premier mental health facility is expected to offer training and research in psychiatry, specialized psychiatric services, forensic psychiatric services, child and adolescent mental services, substance abuse-related and addictive disorders treatment, as well as rehabilitation services. At the center of the rise in mental ill health cases has been a fatal mix of pent-up despair, anxiety and fear, combined with new uncertainties brought about by the COVID-19 pandemic. Among the uncertainties has been mass sackings as COVID-19 continues to take toll on businesses. Companies in the country have been forced to lay off or send on unpaid leave some, most, or even all employees, worsening an already calamitous unemployment crisis in the country. Companies in the tourism, transport, horticulture, communication and education sectors have been worst hit. Just between April, when COVID-19 was spreading like bushfire, and June, when the numbers were hitting the roof, Kenya's unemployment rate grew 2 times as 1.7 million Kenyans lost jobs in the period. Kenya's unemployment rate now stands at 10.4% from 5.2% in March, with the employment to population ratio sliding to 57.7% from 64.4%. The steep rise has forced a majority to grow accustomed to staying at home, a scenario which, coupled with the enforcement of a partial lockdown earlier this year, have allegedly exacerbated cases of domestic violence. The ironic surge in cases of hostility in homes, the ultimate citadels of safety and comfort, have since earned domestic brawls the ultimate shadow pandemic moniker, not only locally but also globally. A study by the Kenya National Bureau of Statistics shows that 23% of Kenyans have witnessed or had cases of domestic violence in their communities since the introduction of COVID-19 containment measures. This as the national GBV hotline received 810 cases in September compared to 646 cases in August, an increase of 25%.
Cases of gender-based violence have increased, mental health issues worsened, and instances of teenage pregnancy have also escalated.
Another study undertaken by the Ministry of Health and Population Council on COVID-19 knowledge, attitudes, practices and needs this year showed that 39% of women and 32% of men were experiencing tensions in their homes as both men and women continue to be trapped in homes with their abusers. And just as the nation thought it could not get any worse, a spike in teen pregnancies during the pandemic gripped the nation further. Reports by the Ministry of Health showed that more than 30,000 pregnant girls sought antenatal care between January and May alone, keeping in mind that not all pregnant teenagers, especially in rural areas, attend the antenatal routines.
I appeal to all our social institutions, including our religious institutions, to exercise civic responsibility to bring these unfortunate trends to an end.
And with many attributing the spike in teen pregnancies to school closures, restrictions on movement and mandatory curfews that have seen these girls trapped in home with their predatory relatives and neighbors. Another cause behind the spike has been misbehavior among the teens themselves. A crackdown by police officers in recent times has led to the arrest of hundreds of teens in various parts of the country who are found engaging in orgies and drinking games disguised as birthday parties. In June, 38 teenagers from Kemboa village in Ogembo, Kisii County were arrested while bringing on illicit liquor and allegedly engaging in a sex party. There were 34 boys aged between 14 and 20 and 4 females in the orgy. On July 3rd, police in Homa Bay County arrested a group of 35 teenagers from an orgy party at a house in Sango Estate. The minors were aged between 13 and 17 years. 3 weeks later, on July 22nd, 26 students were arrested by police in Kakamega in a house suspected to be used for group sex. The teens, 16 of them girls and 10 boys, were ambushed by police officers who had received a tip-off from members of the public. The lead was blown off when another raid by the men in blue on November 21st at a house in Nairobi's Mountain View area where 44 teenagers, among them 26 boys and 18 girls, and a woman who was the owner of the house, were placed in police custody. Rolls of marijuana, used condoms and broken alcohol bottles told of the activities that happened in the house before police swooped in.
I believe parenting is questionable as of now. These children don't come from the same ethnic background, so it cuts across different ethnic communities. And so it is a challenge that as a parent, I would like all parents to sense that there is something that is going on that is not right.
The dust had not settled when barely a week later, police officers gate crashed another house party within Kahawa Sukari Estate in Ruiru, Kiambu County and arrested 18 teenagers aged between 16 and 18. Similar script, different characters.
Tahadhari ni kwamba wazazi waweze kufanya close monitoring of their children, especially masaa ya mchana. Usiku wazazi wapo.
Another devastating ripple effect arising from the COVID-19 pandemic was the rise in cases of police brutality, notably happening during the enforcement of curfew and other COVID-19 protocols. It began on March 27th, the first day of the dreaded 7 p.m. to 5 a.m. dusk to dawn curfew at the Likoni Ferry Crossing. Passengers, in an effort to beat the curfew, met the full force of a brutal police force when hordes of police officers in riot gear appeared. They threw tear gas into the crowds, lashing out at innocent men, women and children and forcing them to the ground. Dozens were made to lie on top of one another, while others sat choking, vomiting and rubbing their burning eyes. Despite admonitions from leaders, among them Mombasa Governor Ali Hassan Joho, as well as assurances from the force's top brass that was going to be an isolated case of a police force under reform into a humane police service, in the following months, police unleashed a torrent of violence on Kenya, with at least 15 people killed by officers during the first 9 weeks of curfew alone. At least 6 additional deaths are also being investigated by IPOA, as well as allegations of shootings, robbery, harassment and sexual assault by police officers.
The COVID-19 pandemic has been the perfect, albeit infamous, storm to these shadow pandemics that grip the nation. But as it is with the nature of a mother pandemic birthing other pandemics, could yet another shadow pandemic be in store for a country already on its knees? David Muthoka, TV47.
Well, after all that, I would probably borrow the words of the president. That is yesterday. He says that we all hope that 2021 will indeed be a COVID-19 free. We cross fingers for that. And to another sad story, but beautifully told. Vultures are without a doubt very important in an ecosystem. Vultures are often regarded as garbage collectors since they play a unique role in clearing carcasses, which pose a danger to other creatures in an ecosystem. But this bird is now under siege and has been classified among endangered species globally. Joash Shonsari visited the Lewa Wildlife Conservancy and filed this report on the vultures.
The existence of birds in an ecosystem and the surrounding communities is not a mistake, but a purposeful creation. But naturally, some people chase away these birds, with some believing they are distractors or even dangerous. This is Lewa Wildlife Conservancy in Meru County. In this conservancy, these birds are home. No human activities, making it a friendly environment for the birds. Meet Eunice Kamau, an avian researcher with Lewa Wildlife Conservancy. Eunice tells me, apart from birds being beauty to the environment, they are bioindicators in monitoring the health of the environment.
Birds are play a very critical role in the ecosystem because they are used as biological indicators. For example, like a group of birds, like wet rat birds, which are the water birds, you get that when the population declines, that one can tell you something about the health of the ecosystem, because birds are very small and therefore they can easily detect, they will be easily affected by any slight change in the ecosystem. For example, pollution. it will take a long time for an elephant to feel the effect of pollution than birds. Therefore, the bird population will be greatly affected by a slight change in the environment, for example, slight change in pollution, and therefore you get that their population will decline. So when you monitor the population, when you have a very close monitoring of the population and you get that there is a certain decline of the bird population in a certain ecosystem, then that tells you something about the health of the whole ecosystem. Something is really wrong with that ecosystem.
To some, a bird is just a bird, but some birds are considered unique. Take, for instance, a vulture that feeds on carcasses the vulture can't kill.
Vultures have a very strong digestive system, and therefore the disease-causing microorganisms serve as food for vultures, which would otherwise cause disease to human beings. Therefore, they are our garbage collectors. That's why we refer to them as garbage collectors, because otherwise the diseases like anthrax, they would spread to wildlife, human beings, and even cause death. But now vultures come in and collect that waste for us, and therefore we are healthy.
Kenya has 8 species of vultures out of 23 species available worldwide, in which Lewa alone is home to 6 species.
So out of the 8 species of vultures found in Kenya, here on Lewa we have 6 species, and all the vultures are endangered. And in the past 5 decades, they have been facing a large population decline, and there are just very few. For example, we have one species called the lammergeier. We have very few individuals remaining in Kenya. I think there are less than 4 individuals remaining in Kenya. Therefore, all the rest, most of them are critically endangered, and then if conservation efforts are not taken, then this population is going to crash.
Vultures face many threats that are endangering their populations. Poisoning is the biggest threat to the vultures, primarily from toxins or lead in the carcasses they eat.
Another threat that is facing the vultures, apart from unintentional poisoning, we have collision by the energy power lines where they have development in energy infrastructure. So because vultures have large wingspan, therefore when they are flying very high, they will collide with these masts and power lines, and therefore that causes another threat to their population decline.
Other hazards include being hit by speeding cars as they feed on carcasses along the road and electrocution by power lines. Researchers believe if there is no urgent intervention, vultures will be extinct just like dodos.
Conservation efforts are in place. So we have vulture people who are engaged in vulture research, and they are advocating for what can be done to save the population of the vultures. For the unintentional poisoning, it's when now the local communities and the conservation sector, they have to collaborate and come up with new ways of solving the human-wildlife conflict, new technologies that will not cause the death of the vultures, or when they don't resolve it using the poisoned carcass and all that.
Many a times the vultures die through unintentional poisoning by pastoralist communities who try to keep off lions and jackals from their livestock.
Local pastoralists will prefer killing one goat and poisoning it and save the rest from being fed by predators like lion and also like cheetahs. So when the local communities keep that bait to keep off the predators, or in short, they want the predator to come, feed on the carcass, and they die. But in between now, before, like, let's say today the predator, the lion didn't come. So the vultures now will just sense, they use their strong sense for finding food. Therefore, when they come and find that poisoned meat, which the local community kept it there, unintentionally wanting to kill the vultures, automatically the vultures will feed on the poisoned carcass, and therefore they will die. And because vultures come in large numbers, you get that one carcass which is poisoned can kill more than 100 vultures at a go. some people still hold on to those cultural beliefs that when they see vultures, they see death, and therefore what follows is that they persecute these birds just because of those tight cultural beliefs. Although that one is not common, but some cultures still hold those beliefs.
Due to the reducing numbers of the vultures in the world, researchers encourage communities living near conservancies to preserve the birds for a healthy environment.
For example, we've said that the vultures, they are our garbage collectors. Instead of that carcass causing spreading of diseases like anthrax, killing our livestock, killing our wildlife, why don't we preserve that bird so that we have a continued service that bird will give us that concerns our health.
The researcher have found out that vultures don't live long, hence pose a danger on reduction of its population globally.
Don't have a long lifespan. So what they have is their breeding rate is very low, and therefore that's also another challenge to their population. So they don't breed regularly, and also the chicks, very few of them will make it to maturity, and that also poses a problem to their population decline.
Scientists have begun to study vultures' unique senses and abilities and are considering using the birds to help find bodies from crime scenes. Studying how vultures find a body and how quickly it can consume the body can be useful for forensic analysis.
Through the awareness programs conducted by different organizations that target birds in Kenya, like for example Nature Kenya, we also have the Peregrine Fund that focuses on the vultures. Therefore, that one has sparked some passion in the people, especially in the Kenyan country, and therefore they are really trying, and it's really picking up and doing very well in Kenya.
Annually, there are bird competitions globally. In this year's eBird competition that took place in the month of October, Kenya was ranked top in Africa, an indication that Kenya is home to many species of birds.
A very successful global big day, especially for Kenya. We came top 6 globally by submitting the highest total number of species. Even in Africa, we were number 1. And also we have biodiversity hotspots. We have bird watching hotspots. Lewa Wildlife Conservancy was ranked the 4th biodiversity hotspot and a bird hotspot in Kenya for submitting the highest number of birds. So we came 4th. So we had a total of 183 species that we submitted in a span of 24 hours. So what has made successful bird watching, especially here on Lewa, is we use citizen science. We have our guides who are very passionate in birding. We have even the locals, and we also have other birds enthusiasts.
In the world, there are 23 species of vultures. The bird is relatively social. They have a unique character of excellent senses of smell and sight to locate food. However, their feet are weak and can't carry food. When it is hot, the vultures pee on their feet to cool off. Their head and neck are bare to block bacteria from carcasses to burrow and cause infections. The vultures, when threatened, they vomit to lighten their body in order to run away. Vultures enjoy their own holiday, International Vultures Awareness Day, which is celebrated on the first Saturday of each September. Hundreds of zoos, aviaries, nature preservers worldwide participate each year with fun and informational activities about vultures